Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thrifty Marketer Talks. Let me switch on my light. I keep forgetting that. All right, so episode 55 today. We have been having fantastic guests coming on the show. So I wanted, as I mentioned last time around, I will be bringing uh, guests not only from the business, entrepreneurship, and marketing side of things. I'll be bringing on coaches, leadership experts, mindset experts, etc., etc. So, one of the intriguing topics which I have been reading a lot about for several months is growth mindset, right? We there's a huge discussion going on between growth mindset and a fixed mindset. It's a very interesting topic. So I was looking around for the right person to talk about growth mindset. So, and luckily I have found one. So today I am joined with Bonnie Surie. She is a self relationship expert. Let me repeat that: self relationship expert. That's the first time I heard that term, which I'm going to ask her what it is all about. It's very, very interesting for me. And she's an intuitive breakthrough coach. She's an insightful and enthusiastic speaker and trainer with more than 7 years of experience as a life coach. She works with women, groups, and couples, helping them rebuild their relationship with themselves. That explains self relationship, if I'm not wrong, to become their next level self in mind, body, and spirit so they can confidently create the soul aligned business. Bonnie is known for her breakthrough insights, unique perspective, deep mindset, and story work. Her communication style shifts her clients and audience into a new consciousness that empowers them to create a more fulfilling life. She has been a great guest speaker for several radio shows, podcasts, charity events. She was a trainer for the Military Resilient Employee Program at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. She was part of Bob Proctor's staff. Bob Proctor is one of the amazing personal growth coaches or authors you will ever find. He was even featured in The Secret, facilitating his seminar Metrics in Toronto, Canada. She became a consultant for his Thinking into Results program, which resulted in team training, private team retreats, and high level one to one coaching. Now, Bonnie has her own coaching business, the Freely Me Journey. So I cannot wait for asking her fantastic questions about growth mindset. So let me bring her on.
Well, hey there.
Hey, Bonnie, thank you so much for joining the show today. Thank you so much, and welcome to the Thrifty Marketer Talks. How are you doing?
I am very fantastic. Thank you. I'm also looking forward to our conversation today. Excellent
Absolutely.
introduction.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, I was seriously, very much intrigued by the term self relationship. What I've done is I have curated a set of questions which will cover that, as well as growth mindset, how to overcome challenges with the right mindset, etc. So, if you're ready, we can start off.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
go.
All right. So the first question which I have is, growth mindset is not a clear concept for many of the people. Right? If you speak to anybody, you speak to multiple people, you will get multiple definitions for the same. Right. So you are an expert in that. So how do you define a growth mindset, and how is it different from a fixed mindset?
I believe that a growth mindset is your level of willingness to expand yourself. So
Right.
that could be in your creative capacity, your learning, just your overall development. It could be your willingness to become someone different. But basically, the growth mindset is your level of willingness to expand yourself into something more, to somebody more than you
Right.
currently are.
Right, right. And how different is it from a fixed mindset, to be honest?
Well, the fixed mindset would absolutely be the opposite. Somebody who's not willing to expand themselves in whatever way. So if
Okay.
you could think of it being, let's say it's the difference between having an open window in a room
Okay.
that's really stuffy versus a closed window in a room that's really stuffy. You have
Right.
somebody with the growth mindset that identifies, I'm uncomfortable in this room. I'm going to do something about it. and they get up and they open the window. And now
Right.
they're worries and it feels really good as a result
Right.
of their behavior.
Right.
The
Right.
the fixed mindset would be somebody saying, gosh, it's really uncomfortable in here. It's really stuffy. It's hard to breathe. I feel claustrophobic. I see
Right.
there's a window, but I don't want to get up and do something about it. I don't want to get up and go do the window. It could be too hard to lift.
Right.
It might start raining later today. So there's a level of excuses that follow the lack of willingness.
Right, right. I think that's the perfect way to put it. It answers a lot of questions in my mind as well. Right. So my next question is, if you can, please share some examples of how a growth mindset can lead to success in both personal and professional settings, basically.
Well, your growth mindset is somebody who's empowered. Somebody believes that they are capable. And even if the belief isn't super strong, it's the
Right.
willingness to believe that I'm capable of creating or doing or becoming something more.
Right.
So just the simple willingness gets people into a really curious place, a willingness to try, to give effort, a willingness to fail. I know we'll go over failure a little bit more,
Right.
but it begins the momentum for change.
Right.
And whenever you're uncomfortable with your life, you know that there's change that you want. There's something you want, and you know that it's requiring change. Even though change is what we want, we often find ourselves resisting the change
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
it's not a comfortable place. And we know that anytime we experience discomfort in the mind, in the body, emotion, we try to avoid or escape it. We're primal. We don't want to be in that state of uncomfortable. It's threatening and it's dangerous. So we try to
Right.
get away from it. So change is what we're looking for. The open mindset, the willingness to create momentum, doing something different is what creates those results in your personal life and in your professional life. And there's a
Right.
compound effect, right? The little steps, the little everyday steps that you take are what actually create that really big change and impact. It's
Right.
not a really big, massive change that creates the big, massive change. It's the willingness to begin.
Right, right, absolutely. All right. So, other things, when we talk about growth mindset, people always have this question, how can I develop a growth mindset? I have been this way for a long, long time. So, if you have to give your 2 cents on it, how can individuals develop a growth mindset? And what are some of the strategies for embracing these challenges and change?
So, like you said, to develop the growth mindset is simply the willingness to
Right,
begin somewhere. And mindset really accompanies it's built of our belief systems about
right,
ourselves, the world, others, life.
right,
And it's also our mental attitude. And constitute as the attitude would be the dialogue we have with ourselves. So honestly, I say that the first place to start would be to evaluate, take a look at the story you're
right,
telling yourself about who you are and what your life is.
right,
And the trick to be able to do the whole story part is if you can just take a minute and imagine a future experience that you want to have.
right,
You'll notice that while you're imagining, you activate, this mental movie theater.
right,
While you're in there imagining, there's a version of yourself that you
right,
can see and sense. And for whatever reason, you know that that version of yourself in this future experience you want to have is a
right.
more developed, more progressed, more expanded version of who you currently are now.
Absolutely.
So if you spend some time with that future version, create a character list like you're creating a character for a movie. Spend
Right,
time with that version of yourself that already exists, because quite honestly, I believe that the only thing that doesn't get you into that future version of yourself is the simple belief that you are not that already.
right, right.
So it's the
Absolutely.
beliefs that you end up having to work through, not necessarily cultivating the mindset itself, but working through the beliefs first. So the story you're telling yourself about who you are, what you're capable about your life, and things like that. That is the place to start. Take a look at that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we are so used to the negative dialogue or negative self-talk, if I can call that. We are so used to it from our childhood or from whatever teenage or etc. It's tough to change that self-talk to a positive way. That's what I feel personally. Sometimes it's really, really tough. Right, absolutely makes sense. What the strategies which you just mentioned, that self-talk is very, very important. Right. So let's talk about failure and mistakes for a moment. Right, we all have to face our own share of failure. We all make ton lot of mistakes in our life. So can you discuss the role failure and mistake plays in the process of developing a growth mindset?
So when I work with my clients and my audience, I always tell them, become the scientist of your life. Your job is to collect data.
Right.
You become very curious. If you can put yourself into a curious mindset,
Right.
nothing is right or wrong. It just is. And you can
Right.
collect data from that. And if nothing is right or wrong, and it just is, then you're not going to start beating yourself up for not getting it right. You're not going,
Right.
do you see? So if you just take a step back and say, I'm going to try this, I want to see what happens. And you're becoming the scientist. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It just is. And now you're just simply collecting data. Oh,
Correct.
I see that this part didn't work. It did not progress me the way I wanted it to, or the way I would like to, but now I know that this is not a route to take. So it is in fact useful data to get about yourself and about the situation or whatever your goal is that you're working towards. So become the scientist of your life, get very curious. Your job is just to collect data. What is progressing you, what isn't progressing you, and the things that actually don't progress you is useful data. You just no longer continue those things. You move in the direction of what is working.
Fantastic. I've never heard somebody putting it like that. Like, be like a scientist, do all sorts of experiments, collect data, and decide which are the right experiments to continue or not. Fantastic. Right. So, other thing which I am very curious about is, how does this growth mindset works in organizational setup? Right. So, how can leaders and managers, cultivate a growth mindset within their teams and organizations? It's really critical these days. So how can they cultivate that growth mindset?
Okay. So I think, first of all, it's really important for the leaders that are coming onto organizations to have an understanding of what mindset is and the role of leading by example. I think that it would be really important for them to understand the psychology of the mindset, why it's actually important. Because what happens is we have an idea, right? There's a topic, there's an idea. That idea activates our mental theater, which we call the imagination. Whatever's happening in the imagination, we logically know that it's not actually happening. However, our body is not responding that way. Our body doesn't know that what's going on in our mind isn't actually happening. But the body's job is to produce the chemical, to produce the emotion, energy that you will use in motion to manifest, to make whatever's going on in the imagination your reality. So if your team is really stressed about the goals, we're not meeting our goals, the bottom line, it's not going the way we want it to, and you're enhancing the level of stress is what's going on in the mind, and your body's producing that energy, the feeling of stress, and you always behave in alignment with the emotion. So the trick would be not to continue to perpetuate the fear of stress. It would be to actually the end result, helping them imagine and seeing the end result, because as they're imagining, they go to their mental theater, the body starts to create the energy necessary to make this blueprint theater trailer, if you will,
Right.
of reality. It knows that the type, the quality of energy to make in the body, to
Right.
move into action, to make what's going on up here a reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when I post this video on YouTube, I'm pretty sure people can replay these answers and take a note of things, because these are really valuable information. We never, like us common man, we never think about growth mindset in this way, or maybe a response to an adversity this way, right? So it's very important for people to know these kind of information, right? So let's talk about adversity next. How does a growth mindset impact a person's ability to adapt or be resilient in the face of an adverse situation or adversity?
Challenges are really important.
Right.
And this is where I come in with the self relationship.
Right.
As a self relationship expert, it is the space of understanding yourself well enough to know that you can manage yourself regardless of the situation you're in.
Right.
So, how do you know yourself when you're alone, when you're with other people? How are you most present? So, all things like that. So, part of the challenge is so if we go back to history and we think about the type of language we use, you hear a lot, I'll worry about that later.
Right.
I'll stress out about this later. When it happens, then I'll stress out about it. Then I'll worry about it. And then suddenly
Right.
a challenge comes up, unexpected, adversity. And then suddenly here we are behaving in alignment with that stress and that worry. And our body's producing that energy, which creates the behavior to perpetuate more stress.
Right.
So the understanding yourself and understanding that the challenges absolutely will arise. It absolutely will. And for whenever it does happen, it's the willingness to say, okay, so here it is. I've worked through challenging situations before, and it turns into a self-coaching experience, a self-mentoring experience, where you can continue to be your best friend
Right.
regardless of what's happening.
Right. Right. Actually, I can see the energy in you when you're talking about this topic. Because that self all the experience you are having is coming out in the form of your words. The self relationship part about it. Because we hardly in a real day to day life, we hardly think along these lines. We just it's a fight or flight mode. We are always on. We never think to build a self relationship, or be there as a friend to ourselves. It's very tough for us. So absolutely, I completely agree with you. And it's a fantastic way to be resilient. Maybe develop your resilience in the face of adversity. Fantastic. Right. So moving on, I want to get your advice on some practical tips, right? For example, somebody's working hard on developing a growth mindset, then suddenly they face a setback or an obstacle. So what are some practical tips you have for them to maintain the growth mindset during those moments?
Okay, so here's a trick. And I love the
Right.
universal laws, but I stick with two very basic ones. I use them all, or at least the ones I'm aware of and have studied. But my very two favorite ones are whatever you resist persists, and
Right.
whatever you focus on expands. So
Right.
if we tend to hear people say, "Ah, I'm just stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I keep getting stuck." Generally, it's a result of resisting the negative thoughts that come through. You're thinking about it, you're fighting it, you're trying to get them to go away, but you're focusing on them. So what's happening? They're expanding. Now you're
Absolutely.
resisting them. You're like, no, 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 no. I need to have a positive mindset. No, I shouldn't be worried about what might happen, or if the past doesn't matter. I'm trying to create something new. Now you're resisting it, and that which you resist persists. So it's important to understand that we're primal, and the body's job is to keep you alive.
Right.
So whenever places of unknown, when you're progressing, on your goal, on your journey, there's a lot of unknown space. So the
Absolutely.
only place that the primal can go to is the past and experience to be able to fulfill the void of unknown.
Right.
And because of what happened in the past and those experiences were uncomfortable and painful, what do? We naturally try to avoid or escape it.
Right.
So whatever you resist persists, whatever you focus on expands. So instead of fighting that dialogue that comes up, trying to convince you not to move forward or to progress, or, oh, it's just too much, just settle, acknowledge it.
Right.
Thank it. You say, okay, thank you, primal part of me. You were doing your job. You're trying to keep me safe and comfortable. You work. Thank you. I am safe. I am comfortable. However, I've made a decision and commitment to myself that I'm going to do this instead.
Right.
So what happens is you eliminate the resistance, you dissolve it, and that energy no longer expands. Do you
Right.
see? Then you're
Right.
able to shift your focus into the new action that you're going to take very intentionally. Simply
Right.
acknowledge it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to resist it. And you don't have to try to hide it even from others, right?
Right.
Just acknowledge it. It is what it is. It's not right or it's not wrong. It's just happening, and that's fine. I acknowledge you. Thank you for doing your job. I'm aware it's working really well, but I've decided to do this instead.
Right, right. Amazing. I'm going to remember those 2 points. Fantastic. Right. So moving on, how does a growth mindset relate to personal development and self improvement? Because I know that people, the personal development and, self growth and all that, those are focus areas. But I don't think without a growth mindset, uh, the all the efforts which you put in those areas may not be that effective. So how does these things relate? Are they even related?
Mindset is what will, like I said, give momentum to the personal development,
Right,
to that area. Like I said, it's the overall willingness to even create the momentum for change, to see if
right,
it's possible. And
right,
we're always looking for something better for ourselves that will improve the quality of our life.
right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's absolutely important. The expansion of self is important because it gives us experience. And what the heck is life all about if you're restricting your experience? It's just sitting
Right.
inside this box. And I had a conversation with my mom and way back, and
Mm.
I I had just said, I feel, Mom, that so many people are just walking around in life in a box. And when I said that, I realized I had an image of a coffin in my head, that we're all just wearing our coffins on our back just in
Right.
case. And then one day we're like, oh, okay, it's time to lay down. Instead of soften and expand and experience life, because that is what evolves us as
Right.
individuals, as whatever your beliefs are, spiritual beings, just your overall experience of
Right.
life. Yeah.
That's a sad truth, by the way. You're completely right there. Right. So you might have seen a lot of maybe clients of yours or people around you, adopting a growth mindset and them overcoming a challenge or achieving a significant goal. So can you provide some real life examples of how a growth mindset can help somebody overcome a big challenge or maybe achieve a significant goal in their life?
Well, for myself, if I could just share a story, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, let me just kind of share a little bit of my story, what got me into this space, because I most definitely was not always this, this way.
Right.
In 2010, I watched a home video of myself interacting with my child,
Right.
and I was devastated. I could not believe that I had behaved in such a way. She had made me an Easter egg, and she came
Right.
up behind me and she was trying to share it with me. And I'm at the kitchen sink, so my back is to her, and she has her arms up and she's saying, Mommy, I made this for you. And she's dancing and dancing, just trying to get my attention.
Right.
And finally, I just turn around and I smack the egg out of her hand and I yell, I don't care. I don't want it. And the egg hits
Oh,
the oven door and it just bursts at her feet. And
right.
I'm watching this video that my stepfather had recorded on his tablet. And I watched her look up at me and her heart was just broken and she didn't understand. And she
Yeah.
picked up the pieces to the egg and she kissed them and she whispered something to it. And I thought, oh my God, what did she just say? I need to know what she just said. And as she turned around to walk out of the kitchen, she passed the tablet that was recording on the counter and she said, it's okay. Grammy says, Mommy loves me. And in that moment, I thought, oh my God, when was the last time I told my kids I love them?
Right.
I didn't know because I was so focused on the turmoil and discomfort and chaos going through my body and mind about my regrets from my past not being enough. I was once tipping the scale at 300 pounds. I lost 150 pounds convinced that that would bring me
Wow.
happiness. And it created an illusion for myself. It didn't necessarily create happiness, but it was in that moment that I realized I could go to the store. I had 4 options that came to my mind. I had gone through these options before. I could go to the store and literally run away and not come home to my family, trying to start life off somewhere else by myself, just try to figure
Right.
me out. I could take my own life. That was an option. It was something I had thought about on a regular basis. I could wait for things to change, the better job, our own home, our own car, the financial income that we wanted. I could just wait and be patient for that,
Right.
or I could change. I knew if I was 100% honest with myself, I wanted to be the thing that changed. And it was from that moment that I made the promise to myself that I was going to do whatever it took to change. I called my dad and his reply was, I could read to you for 15 minutes a day. And I thought, did he just hear anything that I said? He wants to read to me? But honestly, I didn't have any other option. I had
Right.
already committed. I knew I wanted it. I didn't know if it was possible for me. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how to do it. So that was my only option, was to try his suggestion. And he
Right.
read to me different personal development books, and it just opened my mind to a brand new way of thinking, of living, of experiencing, of being willing to try, of seeing myself differently. And it really, really, really took me through this journey of rebuilding my relationship with myself.
Right.
And, that's why I do what I do. But that's a real life example of the importance of just what a shift in willingness in your mindset could do for you, completely changing
Absolutely.
the trajectory of your life.
Thank you so much for sharing such an inspiring and such a fantastic story to hear. But people who have real experiences like this are the ones who change other lives. I truly believe in that. There are a lot of coaches around who just read books and just pass on wisdom, but people who have real experiences, have gone through setbacks, add a different flavor to the support they give. They add a different layer of empathy to it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Right.
Yeah.
So before we end the show, the topic growth mindset, I have a final question on that. So how can individuals continue to cultivate and maintain the growth mindset over time? Because life happens every day, every hour, every minute of our lives. Even though I've committed to adopt this growth mindset, I'm gonna be kinder to myself, all that, but life keep happening. It keeps giving us punches. So how does somebody cultivate and maintain a growth mindset over the time?
Repetition is key.
Right.
To continuously repeat, and that's how we create a behavior. So you're right. life can throw things at you in different ways and cause different trajectories that you had never anticipated.
Right.
It's your willingness to be done tolerating,
Right.
no longer tolerating a certain behavior or response from yourself to whatever happens outwardly.
Right.
So that is when you would say, okay, well, the kids were sick. I didn't do anything that was on my to-do list today. I didn't make the calls, the schedules, the meetings. I wasn't able to do any of that. Can I still completely love and accept myself without the accomplishment of those other things that were on my to-do list? And how does this affect the quality of my life?
Right.
And if you're really honest with yourself, you can see that whatever the determinant was, the change, the shift in whatever the distraction, the life happened, you see that it helps you to become flexible. It helps you to continue to be your friend, regardless of what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, causes a presence. And it's not a bad thing, but it's the willingness to continue to give effort from where you are, from whatever happened. Well, I already committed that I no longer tolerate a laziness. I don't mean a peace or a mindset, like a meditative space or being spontaneous and being like, I really feel that I need a walk today. I really need to be out in nature today, or I really need friendship time today. I'm not talking about the communication with yourself and respecting yourself, guiding you to a more balanced place. That's not the laziness I'm talking about. It's the excuses that come up. So when you can identify the excuse, see if you're looking for comfort. See if you end up going back into a way of non-action. Those are the things that you would really want to be able to focus on and look at differently. When life happens, it generally happens to get you to pause and to be present with yourself again, to reevaluate something that might not be working for you anymore. You may have grown out of something and you might be moving into something, and you might be trying to fit this old version of yourself into this new version of yourself you're becoming. So sometimes that chaos is to have you to pause, take a look at you, take a look at where you've gone and where you're wanting to go.
Right. Absolutely. Fantastic. Actually, that's a different take on it. Actually, I didn't expect that as an answer for that question, but that's a good one actually. Right. So, since we have come to the end of the show, I really want to talk about you. I really want to understand your work. So my next two questions will be about that. Before that, first thing which I as I mentioned in the intro also, self-relationship. That term is really intriguing for me. I really want to pick on that. So you're a self-relationship expert and a breakthrough coach, right? So what does that even mean? Like for common people like us, just explain that. And what do you help individuals achieve or maybe see? So if you can throw some light on that, that'd be fantastic.
Self-relationship is not just with self, but it also encompasses your life.
Right.
So a lot of times what happens is we experience traumas, or we all do. There's a trauma, there's an experience that happened and it's been suppressed. And we try to experience life and create a life differently while we're still carrying this invisible trauma with us. We don't realize that we're behaving within certain alignment to protect the pain and discomfort from that, so we don't rediscover it, so we don't re-experience it. So our participation in our own life becomes really diluted and in a survival state. So we don't understand that there's some experiences here that have caused me to adopt a new behavior that is keeping me very suppressed. It's unfulfilling, and I want to work through it. So working in the mindset space, I say, okay, so sure, this happened to you. If you continue to look at it as a thing that happened to you, then you're a victim.
Right.
Then you are not, you're disempowered, you're powerless.
Right.
I'm not saying that there's things that happen that absolutely I do not condone. I do not believe that they should be happening at all, but that
Right.
doesn't change that they do happen.
Right.
If you can find a way to relate to it and to give it meaning, suddenly you're empowered by the situation and it fuels you instead of holds you back.
Right.
So really simple things. Anger. Somebody did something wrong to you, or you felt somebody did something wrong to you. You're really angry about that person every time you see them or hear their name. You just feel really angry. So an example, real life example, I would ask my clients, and I believe in the spiritual space. I believe it's just who I am, what I am. I'm not religious, but I'm a very spiritual person in that space. So I would say, okay, so let's imagine that you're both spirits, right? And you're
Right.
looking at, how do I want the journey of my life to be? What do I want to learn? What do I want to experience? And that person that you were angry with, that really hurt you, you two are up here getting ready to sign contracts that you're going to appear in each other's life and teach each other a lesson.
Right.
That person says, hey, I'm going to show up at this point of your life. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to help you learn this lesson. And you're like, yes,
Right.
perfect. High five. You high five each other. And so therefore it's a mutual agreement, right?
Right.
So my question that I would ask my client is, so what was that lesson that they were meant to teach you?
Right.
And suddenly they're able to see, well, that I'm actually worthy. Oh my gosh, that I'm actually lovable, that I don't have to fight or push to prove that I'm worth somebody's time, So can you see just what reframing different situations and experience of life can do for you, and how it would help you to see and experience yourself differently?
Right, absolutely. I am pretty sure there can be a session entirely on self relationship itself. So that's how deep it is. Right. So my final question before I say goodbye to you is, you have a coaching business which is called the Freely Me Journey. Talk a little bit about that. What kind of impact you're having? What kind of people you have impacted? What kind of work you do, etc. So the Freely Me Journey, please.
So there's a speaking aspect to it. I speak at conferences, working on self-relationship, right? Conferences, summits, team trainings, things like that, retreats. And we just work one-on-one or one-on-many, but in a beautiful space of understanding self very differently when it comes to expansion. Usually if we're working in business, it's how can you perceive and experience yourself differently in alignment with your goal instead of fighting your way to your goal. So there's that capacity. But the people that I end up working with the majority of the time are women who are going through a transitional phase in their life. A lot of times it's from the job or corporate, and they're just like, I have something else. I want to create this business. So now they are shifting identities.
Right.
And so I help them merge into this new identity with themselves that's in alignment with the person, the version of themselves running their dream business. That's in alignment with their heart and soul. So that's a lot of the work that I do. I help them transition and merge into the version of themselves that runs that really powerful soul-aligned business.
Right. I think that alignment is critical for succeeding in life. I'm pretty sure, because if you are aligned to our real self, I think a lot of things becomes much easier. So fantastic. I'm so happy that you took time out to come on the show. Thank you so much for coming as a guest and sharing your insights. I look forward to interacting with you more in the future. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. Right. So that was Bonnie Surie. You as you saw, it's fantastic work. She has been doing for a while. Check out her website, bonniesurie.com, BonnieSurie.com. So it's self relationship really really critical. We all know that. Check her work out. Talk to her if you need support, etc. So that was episode 55. And as I've mentioned again and again, it's not a marketing show anymore because I am not only a marketer, I have a personal side to myself. All my friends, all people who have seen my show, come on my show, they also have a personal side. So a lot of personal topics will be keep coming. So next week, episode 56, it's not happening on a Thursday because it's holiday for us here in India. It's Republic Day. So I've moved it to Tuesday, and we are going the mental health route next week. So I have a fantastic guest who has developed a methodology, or a movement rather, which is called Get Out of Your Head. And it's a no BS way to take care of your mental health. So please do tune in next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. I'll speak to you all soon. Episode 55. I'm signing off. Take care. This is the Thrifty Marketer Talks. Thank you. See you all next week.